Today's story is so emotionally charged, it tightens with every breath, set against a brutal landscape of sun-bleached wood and open prairie. It's where survival guilt and conscience cross paths, and where looking away is easier than doing what's right. It begins with a single decision, quiet, unplanned, and dangerous enough to awaken the truth buried beneath fear. Before we kick off this adventure, don't forget to hit like on the video and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. She dangled there like prey left out in the open. Rough ropes stretched her wrists and ankles wide, biting into raw skin. Her dress was ripped and hanging loose. Dust, sweat, and humiliation streaked her face. The noon sun over Dodge City pressed down on her, mercilessly scorching her skin until it felt ready to blister. Anna Crow was barely 22, and the strength to scream had long since drained from her. Only a brittle breath slipped past her cracked lips whenever the rope pulled tighter across her shoulders. She had been abandoned on the Kansas plains, left to endure, left to be broken. A faint wind stirred the tall summer grass, offering no mercy. The wooden A-frame above her groaned with every gust, its creaking sounding like mockery beneath her weight. Her toes barely missed the ground. Each second stretched thin, feeling as though the next might be her last. She hadn't been there all day, but hours under that sun felt close enough to forever. Anna had known punishment would come for stealing from Sheriff Wade Harlan. She had never imagined it would look like this. She had expected iron bars and a locked cell not being displayed as a warning to anyone bold enough to cross Dodge City's law. Her breathing grew shallow. Then came the sound of hooves, slow, steady. From beyond the low hills, riding with the unhurried rhythm of a man, unaware he was entering another soul's torment. Cole Ridley emerged through the heat shimmer. A rancher pushing his late 40s, weather-worn face, steady eyes the kind shaped by storms and long seasons. He reined in his horse, his gaze fixing on the figure suspended beneath the sun. Shock flickered across his face, then anger, then something quieter, something close to sorrow. He stepped forward. Anna lifted her head with what little strength she had left. She believed he had come to finish what Harlan had started. Her voice shook thin and fragile like something already fading. Don't do this. The words stopped him, not for what they said, but for how they were spoken, as if she had already accepted that mercy had no place for someone like her. Cole reached for the rope. She flinched. He didn't hesitate. His eyes traced every knot, every bruise, every wound carved into her body. And in that moment, Cole Ridley understood one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever she had done, nothing justified this. His hand tightened around the grip of his knife. The plains lay silent. The sun burned hotter. And Anna Crow hovered between life and death while a rancher she had never met made a decision that would alter both their fates. If Cole Ridley cut her down, would the law come for him next, erase them both before the truth ever reached daylight? The blade flashed once in the sun. Then the rope gave way. Anna fell like dead weight. Cole caught her mid-drop. Her body slammed into his chest as she dragged air into her lungs, gasping as if breathing itself burned. Her legs failed her completely. 5 minutes later, and she would have been gone. He slipped one arm behind her back, the other beneath her knees. She weighed almost nothing, too little for someone her age. He lifted her the way he would a wounded calf and carried her away from the cursed frame. He laid her in the shade of a scrub tree, offered water in slow, careful sips, and waited until her eyes could focus before even considering a horse. Up close, she didn't look like a criminal, just a frightened young woman with a stubborn jaw and eyes that refused rest. Her lips trembled. "I took it," she murmured. "I stole from him. From Sheriff Wade Harlan." I went into his office, opened the safe, and took the money. Cole Ridley said nothing at first. Her confession settled heavy in his gut. So it was true she was a thief. At least that part of Harlan's story hadn't been a lie. Cole lifted her carefully into the saddle, then mounted behind her to keep her from slipping. Her head rested against his shoulder as the horse moved off. He felt every tremor that passed through her body. "He had the right to lock you in a cell," Cole said quietly. "A cell," she replied, her voice scraped raw. "Not a rope in the middle of the prairie." That ended the conversation for a long stretch. They followed the Arkansas River, sunlight flashing off the water beside them. Cole kept his eyes on the trail, though his thoughts churned. He believed in the law. Without it, this land turned savage. But what he had witnessed wasn't law. It was cruelty wearing justice's coat. By the time the low hills of his ranch came into view, the sun was already sinking. The house appeared small-weathered, one porch, one chimney, smoke drifting lazily upward. Cole carried Anna Crow inside and laid her on his own bed. He filled a basin with water, tore an old shirt into strips, and gently cleaned the rope burns around her wrists. She winced, but didn't pull away. "Tomorrow, I'll take you in," he said at last. "You stole. You'll answer for that." But in a courtroom, not hanging like a warning sign. Anna stared up at the ceiling. Something darker pressed behind her eyes, something heavier than theft. She swallowed it down. Why tell this man that she had seen Wade Harlan do something far worse than anything she had done tonight? She would just be a thief who had survived. And Cole would just be a rancher who couldn't ride past suffering. Outside, the Kansas sky bled red and gold. Somewhere in the distance, a lone rider began asking questions about the girl who had vanished from his rope. When that rider reached this ranch, whose side would Cole Ridley stand on morning, came quiet at the Ridley Ranch. Too quiet for what lay ahead. Cole rose before dawn, as he always did. He fed the horses, checked the water trough, and avoided looking toward the bedroom door where Anna slept in his bed, while he took the old cot by the stove. He told himself it was simple. He would take her back to town. He would stand beside her before a judge. The law would do what it was meant to do. No more ropes in open fields. That plan held until the sound of hooves thundered up the lane. Not a wagon, not a neighbor. 3 riders. One heavy driving rhythm. Cole stepped onto the porch, wiping his hands on his trousers. Sheriff Wade Harlan pulled hard at the gate, 2 deputies behind him, dust boiling beneath their horses. Those sharp eyes swept the house, the barn, the tracks then locked on Cole. Mourning Ridley Harlan said, smiling without warmth, "Seems someone cut down my thief." The lie rose in Cole's throat and died halfway there. He chose the truth instead. "I found a girl hanging where the buzzards circle," he said. "I brought her here so she wouldn't die like a dog." "You interfered with evidence," Harlan snapped. "She belongs in my jail." The smile had vanished. Cole Ridley shook his head. "She belongs in a courtroom. What you did wasn't justice." For a heartbeat, neither man moved. An aging rancher on the porch, a lawman with a badge standing in the yard. One of those moments that decides what kind of men they truly are. Inside the house, Anna Crow stood barefoot just behind the door, every muscle drawn tight. She heard every word. She knew that voice. She could still taste the dust from his rope. If he took her back now, there would be no trial. No second chance. Just another ride into the heat and a grave no one bothered to mark. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Her mouth went dry. She gripped the door frame to steady herself, then slipped farther into the kitchen while the argument carried on. When Cole finally stepped inside, his jaw was clenched so hard it looked painful. "He wants you back," Cole said. "He says the rope was legal." Word was already spreading through Dodge City that Cole Ridley had cut down a thief. Some folks called him a fool. Most said Wade Harlan had been humiliated in front of the entire town. Anna looked at Cole, really looked at him. This man had already put himself in danger just by cutting her loose. If she stayed silent, he would walk straight into Harlan's trap with her. If she spoke the truth, they might both end up dead before sunrise. Her voice came out barely above breath. "Cole, I did steal. But I stole the wrong thing. I took money that was never his to keep. And I saw what he did to the man it belonged to." Cole stared at her. "What did you see, Anna?" She drew in a breath that shook her from head to toe. Because once she answered, there would be no turning back for either of them. She didn't look at him when she spoke. She fixed her eyes on the scarred wooden floor, as if the truth were etched into it. "I was cleaning the office late," she said. "The sheriff thought I'd gone home." Her fingers twisted in her skirt. "I heard a man come in. Not military. Just a trail-worn rider in a dusty coat, a Wells Fargo badge on his vest. He carried a leather pay bag over his shoulder. They argued about money, about cash that was supposed to ride the rails and never did." Cole stayed silent, aware of his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. "Then I heard the gunshot," Anna whispered. "Just one." The messenger dropped where he stood. The sheriff didn't flinch. Smoke drifted from his pistol like it meant nothing at all. She swallowed hard. He wrapped the body in canvas, loaded it into a wagon, and drove past the last houses toward a cut bank on the Arkansas River, where no one goes anymore. That leather bag ended up in his safe. "The same one I took." Her voice cracked. "I thought I was robbing a greedy man. Turns out I stole from a grave." Silence settled heavy in the room. Cole Ridley had crossed paths with bad men before, cattle rustlers, drifting cutthroats, men who lived light and left damage behind. But a lawman murdering a messenger for money, then stringing up a young woman to bury the truth. "That's different," Anna Crow said quietly. "If we stay here, he'll come back with a rope and a story. And only one of those will be true." Cole dragged a hand down his face, then glanced toward the window where Wade Harlan had ridden off. "Fort Dodge," he said under his breath. "The soldiers there know the railroad men. They'll care if a Wells Fargo pay bag goes missing. And the sheriff doesn't own their ear." By sundown, they were mounted. Cole tied a small bedroll behind his saddles, shoved the stolen leather pay bag deep beneath his coat, and lifted Anna up in front of him. She moved stiffly, every step still hurting, but her voice held firm. "If we do this, there's no turning back," she said. "There wasn't any turning back the moment I cut you down," Cole replied. They followed the Arkansas River once more, this time not at a walk, but at a hard driving run. Behind them, on a ridge near the Ridley Ranch, Wade Harlan watched two shrinking figures head west, dust rising in their wake. His two deputies shifted in their saddles, waiting. He didn't need a spyglass to understand. If they reached the fort, his rope tricks were finished. So was everything else. He dug his heels in hard, his horse screaming as he sent one deputy riding with him while the other peeled off to blur their trail. 3 guns chasing one rancher and one girl who knew too much. Night crept in as Cole and Anna spotted the first lanterns of Fort Dodge glowing ahead. Hoofbeats thundered closer behind them. If the soldiers at that gate believed a sheriff before they believed a thief and an aging rancher, the road ahead would end dark. At the edge of the fort, a sentry stepped forward, rifle leveled. He shouted for them to halt. Cole hauled hard on the reins, the horse skidding beneath him. Anna nearly slipped from the saddle. The sentry didn't care who they were. He cared that it was near dark and 3 riders were making trouble at his gate. Wade Harlan arrived a breath later, his deputies close behind. Their horses were slick with sweat, his badge flashing in the last sliver of daylight. Voices clashed at once, Harlan flashing his badge, Cole raising empty hands. Anna clung to the saddle horn, knuckles white. The sentry did what a good soldier does. He shut the gate, he separated them. Then he sent for an officer. "That girl is a thief," Harlan barked. "The old man's hiding her. I'm here to return her to Dodge City Justice. It might have worked any other night." But Cole Ridley hadn't ridden this far to keep quiet. He slid from the saddle legs, shaking, lungs burning, and pulled the heavy leather pay bag from beneath his coat. He dropped it at the soldier's feet. "That's Wells Fargo money," Cole said. Their rider never made it to the rails. She knew why. Every eye turned to Anna Crow. She could have stayed silent. She could have slipped back into the shadows and let her last chance die right there. Instead, Anna Crow climbed down from the saddle and stepped forward beside Cole Ridley. Her voice trembled, but it did not fail. She spoke of the gunshot inside the office, of the Wells Fargo rider collapsing to the floor, of the body wrapped in canvas and hauled out of town toward a forgotten bend of the river. The officer did not rush to judgment. Papers were gathered. Names were written. A telegram went out along the wire asking whether a messenger had vanished on that stretch of road. For several days, Cole and Anna remained inside the fort, neither prisoners nor free. They answered the same questions again and again. Their story never changed. When confirmation came back that a Wells Fargo rider and his pay had disappeared weeks earlier, Captain Roy Caldwell ordered 10 men to ride for Dodge City with Cole and Anna traveling under guard. Men like those did not forget the dead. Faces hardened, rifles came up, and for the first time in years, Wade Harlan found himself staring down gun barrels that did not answer to him. They rode back to Dodge City with a small troop of soldiers and a federal man from the fort. They dug where Anna said to dig along a lonely cut bank on the Arkansas River. What they found was enough bones, scraps of cloth, and a small metal tag stamped with the mark of the express company matching a missing rider. Wade Harlan was not dragged to the gallows the next morning. He was arrested and sent east under guard. Months later, he stood in a courtroom in Topeka before Judge Amos Whitfield, a man who owed him nothing and granted him no mercy. As for Cole and Anna, they rode home not as captor and criminal, but as 2 people who had walked through the same fire and come out changed. Anna worked the Ridley Ranch to repay what she had taken and more. She learned to handle rope for horses, not for punishment. On quiet evenings, she and Cole sat on the porch, watching the Kansas sky fade from gold to purple. They spoke little. They needed even less. That may be the true heart of the story. Sometimes justice only exists because one stubborn soul refuses to turn away from another's pain. And sometimes the person everyone calls a thief is the only one brave enough to tell the truth. Finally, let me send my deep thanks to you. Thank you for listening. If this story has touched your heart, I invite you to stay with us to discover more true tales of the Wild West. Stories that honor resilience, tenderness, and the spirit that God placed in those who blaze the trail. Subscribe, share, leave your thoughts in the comments, and join us once again to journey across this untamed land. Thank you. Aviso legal/disclaimer. These stories are crafted purely for entertainment and may contain imaginative additions or dramatic interpretations inspired by old frontier eras. We use AI-based resources, voice imagery, and drafting as part of our creative process. But every final detail is carefully reviewed and shaped by human effort to preserve emotional depth and authenticity. We strictly follow YouTube's rules regarding AI-generated content and refrain from deepfakes, altered identities, or misleading representations. All images, sounds, and related materials are lawfully obtained. Please do not reuse, modify, or distribute any portion of this content without written permission. Thank you for valuing creativity, respect, and original work.